Hi friends and readers! For this week, I'm going to be mood reading library edition. I am going to be using the help of my local library in person and my local library virtually through the Libby app to read this week. The first book up on the list is going to be a book that I've been waiting to read for months. I have requested it on Libby months ago and was a million in line for the book, and finally a few days ago it was delivered, and that is Sunrise on the Reaping. So I'll be reading Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne on my Kindle for this first book. If you're watching this, this is your sign to download the Libby app or go to your local library and read. It's currently my lunch break on a Monday. I have not started Sunrise on the Reaping just yet. I plan on starting it a little bit later today after I get off work. I work from home, but I couldn't be more excited. I remember growing up having the first original, I guess, 3 Hunger Games books on my shelves, the orange, blue, and black edition. And it's so cool to see all the new editions of the books. And I remember when they announced the movie a few years ago for Ballad of Snake and Songbirds, and then I went out and watched the movie, and then we got the announcement for Sunrise on the Reaping, and I've been waiting weeks to read it before the movie comes out. I actually never read Ballad of the Snakes and Songbirds, at least not that I can remember, but I was definitely one of the kids who read the Hunger Games books, and also I was always going to the movie premieres on Thursday nights with my mom. I remember going with her and my best friend on the early showing, and so there's just a sense of nostalgia that these books hold. I am, however, a little bit nervous. I know that this book follows Haymitch, and I can remember Haymitch's story in the Hunger Games, the first 3 that we saw, but I hear a lot of people say that Haymitch's story is a little bit sad, and so I hope that I can enjoy this book and not let the sense of anticipation or nostalgia take away from what the book's actually going to be about. So we'll see how we like it. So far, most people I see reading it really enjoy it. I will catch up with you later once I've gotten a little ways into the book. Alright, we are 13% of the way through Sunrise on the Reaping, which is just about 55 pages, so just enough to get gist of what's happening here. Our male character, or main male character, is Haymitch, and if you know anything about the Hunger Games, watched the movies, read the other books, then you know how Haymitch plays a role in other stories. So we've been waiting forever for his story, which is so exciting to read this book, despite how sad the Hunger Games are. Essentially, the premise where Haymitch lives is called Panem, and Panem is split into 12 districts. Each year, as a form of punishment for rebellion in previous years, they hold the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games are essentially where 2 people from each district, so a total of 24 people, are all thrown into an arena and have to fight to the death, and there's only one winner, one victor who comes out alive each year. In Haymitch's story, this is the 50th Hunger Games, so instead of taking 2 people from each district, they are going to draw names for 4 people, 2 boys and 2 girls. And it's all arranged by the capital. As you can imagine, the capital are the wealthy, the moneymakers, politicians, the people who control everything and make sure that there's no form of rebellion. They do that through peacekeepers, people walking around in white suits and punishing those who act out. Now, Sunrise on the Reaping part comes from when they draw names. In each of the districts on Reaping Day, they draw the names for the folks who are going to be in the Hunger Games, and they draw those at random, but some people have their names in the bucket more than other people. As you can imagine, Haymitch is our male main character, so you can read between the lines on what happens with him on Reaping Day. One really sad note, like, you're already participating in the Reaping and the Hunger Games, and then Suzanne makes Haymitch's birthday on Reaping Day. Like, imagine how bad of a birthday you have every single year. Now, I was curious if I should have read read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes before this because I haven't, and that book is a prequel to this book, and then this book, and then the other three Hunger Games we all know so well. I only watched The Ballad of the Songbirds and Snakes movie, so I thought I had a good gist of it. Luckily, I'm reading it on the Libby app or through Libby on my Kindle, so anytime something alludes to what happened in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, it's usually highlighted, like 80,000 people have highlighted it, so I catch on to what I may have missed. But for the most part, having seen the movie, I can realize when that book is referenced in this book. So I think that you would be okay not reading it, but of course you would probably have a more comprehensive read if you did. I don't want to say much more about the plot of the book. It's the Hunger Games. We know that usually only one person comes out alive in these stories, so it can be so hard to sit here and develop a connection or feel for all of these characters that we're learning about and reading about besides Haymitch, and then just know that they're going to go off to compete in the Hunger Games. I don't think I'm gonna make it out of this book without shedding a tear, so I will catch back up with you in a little while after I've got probably halfway or a little more than halfway into the book. Right now it's just very sad. They're being ripped apart from their families. I don't know how this book would not be sad, essentially, but we'll see. Someone likes the new chair. It is just so interesting. This book is by far a prequel to the original three Hunger Games that we all know so well, but we are seeing so many characters that are grown up and older in the Hunger Games trilogy as their younger selves in this book, and it is just so interesting. And it's, I don't know, it's a different feeling being able to revisit characters that you know so well. I'm enjoying it really, despite how, you know, how mostly this will end. It's nice to see these characters again. The Effie and Haymitch origin story. Who would have thought? That's so sweet. Cue the first tears of the book. I just can't believe they did that. I've been trying something new with my Kindle where when I'm reading it, I get rid of the page numbers and the percentage finish, because I have recently been more motivated without seeing that to keep reading versus when I see it recently. It used to be motivating to me, but now I sort of see it as like, oh, I still have 10% left of this chapter, or it's not chapter. I still have 50% left of the book. I thought I've been reading so much, versus now every once in a while I'll check to see the progress. I'm 229 pages in, and one thing that is devastating, I just cried for the first time, but also when they are in the Hunger Games, there's always these creatures that are coming out to make the games harder for them. And in my head, throughout watching movies and reading all the other books, I was curious, how are they going to make the creatures in this book different than all of the mythical things that have approached them before in the Hunger Games? And I like where it's going with the creatures, and I'm imagining them in a movie. I'm excited to see what these creatures will look like when they come to life in a movie, even though they're deathly creatures. Anyways, we're kicking through 64% of the way, so I want to see if I can knock out most of this tonight and finish it up by tomorrow afternoon. It's Tuesday and I started reading again right after work, so I'm about to take a break for dinner and then hop right back into it. This is making me want to rewatch all of the Hunger Games movies though. I never thought I would be scared of ladybugs. Ladybugs are like one of my favorite insects. No, they're not anymore. There is a character in here that I thought I wouldn't like just because of how they acted toward the other players in the game, but definitely, they're growing on me. It's so fun to peel back why people act the way they act and get to see who they truly are at their core, and sometimes it's actually good, which also makes me sad because how these books end. Tears number 2. What the heck? Yeah, so it's the next day. I finished Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins last night, and let me just say, I cried so much, so much. That book was just absolutely devastating. I don't know how younger kids are reading this. I know I'm an emotional crier. I cry in movies, I cry in TV shows, but man, that book really got me last night. I rated it a 4-star, or to be picky, a 4.25 star. Something in me was just like, man, I can't rate this a 5-star because it was a little too heavy for me. I had an idea of where it was going to go, knowing what I know about the books that follow it, but man, I wasn't expecting all of that. I especially can't imagine watching this as a movie in the movie theaters. If that was making me cry as much, boy, the movie's going to take me out. And now I get to return my rental on Libby, so the next person waiting behind me can bawl their eyes out. So that's the first book done from the library this week. The next book I'm actually grabbing from the library itself to read the physical copy. So I'll catch up with you later in the day. I'm on my lunch break right now to share some updates on what book we got from the library. It is about 5:05. I literally just got out of work. The grind never stops. I finished Sunrise on the Reaping last night, and I started our next library book. I called this a mood reading vlog because I decided to pick up books that I've been wanting to read, like Sunrise on the Reaping. It just so happened that I was waiting for that copy on Libby, and then I wanted to browse the local library to see if there were any other reads on my TBR, my to be read list, that were available currently at the library. And this is one I have been particularly eyeing, and I saw it become available a few days ago. And also another book that I wanted to do for a video I'm filming next week became available at the local library. So I went online and placed a hold, and then I went and picked them up at the library. So our next read is going to be Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonam-Young. No, psych. Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonam-Young. Spoiler alert, I've read Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonam-Young before, rated at a 4-star, and really liked it. There's a fun trope in that book, so I would check it out. If you're interested in knowing what the trope of Out on the Limb is, look at it beforehand because it might impact whether you pick it up or not, and I really enjoyed it. That was the first book I read by this author, and so I thought I would give it another try, especially because we meet the two main characters of Out of the Woods in that book, and I really enjoyed them. While they were side characters in that book, they were hilarious, had good banter. Now, I'm not hearing as rave reviews about Out of the Woods, which, come on, Taylor Swift reference, as I did with Out on the Limb or Out on a Limb. Why can't I get this right? I'm getting so confused. However, I think that Hannah Bonam-Young, at least these two books that I'm referencing in this video, has a good connection to these books, a special, should I say, special connection to these books. She seems to be writing a lot about her life and her experiences into the characters of these books. And Out on a Limb, that had to do with her personal disability. And then in this book, she wrote in the beginning that a lot of this pulls from what she has felt in her own relationship with her husband, who she's been with for years. Which leads me to what this book's about. I'm only 14 pages in. It seems like we're doing a past and present timeline because we are following Sarah and Caleb, and Sarah and Caleb are high school sweethearts. We knew this from Out on a Limb. They have been together for 17 years, so quite some time. And the whole plot of this story is that Sarah is starting to wonder who she is on her own, if she is anything on her own, which, spoiler alert, yes. So one thing that means a lot to her is a charity gala that she had in memory of her late mom, and she really wanted to prove herself to everyone. However, the event did not go as planned, and her husband stepped in and saved the day. Straight off the back of the cover, in a desperate attempt to fix what they fear is breaking, Sarah and Caleb make the spontaneous decision to get out of their comfort zone and join a grueling hiking trip. So I think the story is following a high school sweetheart relationship to see if they can make it out of the woods. It's not a very long read, so I think that we'll breeze through this. I hope we get a little little bit of Win and Bo in this, but I do think it'll be a quick read. So let's see what it has in store for us. I'm going to be completely honest. I've almost read nothing in the last day. Sunrise on the Reaping sort of took me out of the mood to read. I'm on page 68 of Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonam-Young, and I just find myself reaching for my phone. It's hard for me to get through a chapter without checking the time, seeing if I got a message. So hoping things pick up. I think this is just my first book where the two main characters, the couple, are still in a relationship and we're working through that. And the conflict is like bam, right at the beginning of the book. So I'm curious to see how they work through it and how their little trip outdoors is going to help them do that. Hopefully I can get in a better mood to read over the next day because I'd really like to finish this book before the weekend's up. Good morning. It is about 8:19 a.m. or 8:20 a.m. now. I don't even know how many pages. I think I have about 115 pages left in Out of the Woods. Yes, I'm on page 201 and I think there's about 315. So I'm trudging along. I will say this is probably the slowest I've gone through a book in the last few weeks. It is taking me quite some time to get through this. And I don't think it's because it's a bad book or it's not interesting. I think you've just got to be in the mood for this type of book, especially if you pick it up thinking it's a romance book or if you go into it thinking you want to get out of it what you got out of Out on a Limb. Sarah and Caleb are really fun to follow. They have great banter, but this book kind of reads more like women's literary fiction because I think I've said in previous ones, we're following them as they work through some problems that they've been having on this week-long retreat with other couples and sort of basically a therapist. And you are reading a lot about conversations between the two, conversations with other couples, problems that all of these couples are having, therapist conversations, and so it almost feels like self-help, and you really got to be in the mood for that type of reading to thoroughly enjoy it. So it's not that I'm hating it, it's just that I'm not necessarily in the mood to work through relationships on every single chapter. At some points you kind of miss out on the lightheartedness and the romance that you got from Out on a Limb, but not to say that these are even comparable or comparable. So I'm just saying don't go into this book if you want to read it thinking that that's the same experience you're gonna get in this one. But I have about 100 pages and I really need to wrap this up because I'd like to edit this video and post it tomorrow. And editing can take some time. I think I'm gonna do a little self-care morning. I'm about to go make a coffee for myself and then I'm gonna go to the nail salon and get a pedicure because I absolutely need one. And then I'll be able to read a little bit more of this at the nail salon. I might even be able to crank it out depending on how long the wait is and how long I sit in the chair. So I'm excited for a little bit of a morning and then I'll catch you again later once this book is done. just finished Out of the Woods. It's just before lunchtime on this Saturday. I am going to rate Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonam-Young a 3-star. I give this book a solid 3-star because I did like how you get an aspect of found family, you get to work through problems, and I was so curious how, with this being a book about a couple who is already together, the third act conflict would come in. And of course it does, but it's done in a different way. I didn't mind how it was done. I really liked getting to see Win and Bo from Out on a Limb. If you like their story, if you like Sarah and Caleb, then I definitely would recommend you to read this. Just make sure you're coming into it with a good frame on what the book's about, so that way you're in the right mood for it. Now, there is a good bit of grief talked about in this book, so make sure you're also in a good headspace to confront that aspect of plot. So that wraps up Out of the Woods. That also wraps up my reading for the week. I already returned Sunrise on the Reaping to the Libby atmosphere, and then I'm gonna return this in a few days when I finish my next book for my video next week. Since Sunrise on the Reaping pulled a little bit at the nostalgia of reading and the library for me, what's a book or a story from your childhood that you remember checking out from the library? I also think that there was a time where I was checking out DVDs from the library, and I specifically remember taking How to Eat Fried Worms, the movie, from the library, and we never gave it back. We held on to that as kids. We watched it so many times. So let me know if there's something that you hold from the library as a kid like that in the comments. I will catch you next time. Bye for now.